Sound Speeds, and welcome back to the Sound Speeds podcast. Now, you'll notice that I'm in a different location today. This is something I'm trying. I want to see if this is going to go over well. Do you like this background? Do you like this environment? Do you like whatever? Tell me in the comments below what you think of this. Would you prefer me shooting on the regular background, or would you prefer me shooting here? This is a test. I guess that's the intro. Okay, so let's waste no more time and get right into our content. If you've ever done any kind of post-production, especially inside of a DAW, one thing you may have run into is using VSTs. And if you do, then there's something that you need to know about them. You don't need to run one instance of them. For example, one of the things I've used quite extensively on this channel is Clarity VX, which is a very simple noise removal process you can run. And it is as simple as basically engaging, and then I usually put it on version number 2, or broad 2, I think is what it's called, and then you turn up a knob. And the more you turn up the knob, the more it starts to knock out the background noise until the point where it gets a little bit aggressive and starts cutting in on your vocals as well. But one of the things that I will do sometimes is, instead of running one all the way up at like 70 or 80 or 100% and then saying, geez, it's cutting into my dialogue quite a bit, I will sometimes run multiple instances of it. So that way it will be Clarity VX, then I again open up and bring in Clarity VX, and then I do the same thing again 2 or 3 more times. That way I have Clarity VX and I can run it maybe 10%, 15%, and then run it again at 10 or 15%. Or if I want to get more aggressive with one stage, I can. But the reason why you would do this is because it preserves the main audio just fine. And then you are treating the background just a little bit at a time. Another example you may end up using this on is compression. For example, if you want to run compression and really just knock down any level that's going to be anywhere near quiet, and you just want to bring everything up and just have a flat line of dynamic range, you can do that. But one of the things you also need to consider is that you don't necessarily need to run one instance of it. You can run multiple stages of it, where, for example, if something is maybe around negative 20 dB in level, you might compress the audio and bring it up so that way it's a little bit louder. And then if you start to get overly loud, maybe it will compress down that audio if it maybe gets above negative 10 dB. If you get above negative 5 dB, then it's going to compress it even more. And if you get right up next to 0 dB, then it's going to compress down to avoid you clipping. I have a friend who's a production sound mixer, and he does exactly this with hardware on his production sound card. He has basically put into effect Never Clip without the Zaxcon patent on Never Clip. So this is only for his mix track. He doesn't do it for his ISOs, but if he does it in the world of production sound, you can do it in your DAW. And I have done this multiple times, and it's one little trick that you can do without having to forensically go through it and remove little sounds here and there, and then trying to just make it work using one iteration of a particular VST. You can use multiple stages, and by using them just a little bit at a time, you can even double click them and have multiples up on the screen at the same time, and you can start to adjust a little bit on one, a little bit on another, and it's going to preserve and pass through your audio to the next iteration. So that way you might knock out a little bit of background noise, then another little bit, and then another little bit, just like you might say, let's add a little bit of compression, now let's add a little bit more, now let's add a little bit more, and do it in different stages for different reasons. Like, again, to avoid and have basically a brick wall, like you normally use a brick wall limiter, but you could definitely use a brick wall compressor for the same kind of thing. So there you go, something for you to consider in your post workflow. For our second topic, we're going to discuss YouTube audio. Now, there's many people online that have compared YouTube video. They will take a 1080p video, render it in 1080p, and then render it again in 4K, even though it's still 1080p quality, upload them both, and then compare them both at the 1080p playback resolution. And they come to find out that the video that was uploaded in 4K is a higher quality image. Why is this? Well, it's very simple. When YouTube recompresses whatever you upload and preps it for streaming, it is going to start with the highest possible quality. And therefore, in 4K, it's going to render that video into a compression, a codec that is going to play back in ideal quality at 4K. If you only play it back at 1080p, it's going to be playing back a 4K video in a higher quality way than it would be 1080p. And YouTube does this. It's a quite verifiable thing that you can try yourself. Now, what about audio? Well, the fact of the matter is, YouTube used to actually stream out in AAC audio format. But A few years ago, and by that I mean as of the time of this recording, they changed over to the Opus codec. Now, Opus, with this codec, it streamlines the whole process and makes the audio, which they acknowledge now in broadband world, it doesn't need to actually diminish in quality because the audio quality of Opus is going to be pretty much the same regardless of whether you are watching a 4K video or if you watch a 144p video. The audio quality is the exact same. It doesn't matter what your resolution is. I did a video about YouTube audio quality a few years ago. It's probably been updated. I haven't actually researched it much since then, but you could check it out if you're interested right over there. However, the audio is still the same. It doesn't matter what resolution you play back at. The audio quality is going to be the exact same. So you could watch in 144p if you're trying to save your bandwidth while you're not on Wi-Fi. You could easily do that, and the audio quality is going to be the exact same as it would be if you were recording in 4K. So there you go. So there you have it, another episode of the SoundSpeeds podcast in the can. Now you may say, Alan, this episode is short. It's only like 10 minutes long. Do you want me to just fill it up and just, say, okay, for the sake of having an episode that's 2 hours long, we're going to talk 2 hours or maybe half an hour long? No, we're going to cover the material and then we're going to cover the material and move on. Hit it and move. So thanks for tuning in to this episode of the SoundSpeeds podcast, and be sure to tune in the future for more episodes of the SoundSpeeds podcast. And in this background, maybe not in this background, you tell me, did you like it down in the comments? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the future with more sound advice. Have a question you'd like answered or want to add something? Be sure to write it in the comment section down below. You can also make a suggestion for future topics of discussion. Again, comment section down below, or you can email me at soundspeeds@yahoo.com. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss out on future sound advice.